Welcome to Trial and Edit. I'm Andy Studna, Senior Editor of Applied Clinical Trials. Today, we're looking at AI and site enablement, specifically the gap between where AI investment is going in clinical trials and where it's actually landing for the people running them. Following the Scope X conference earlier in May, I spoke with two industry leaders thinking seriously about this problem. Liz Beatty, co-founder and chief strategy officer at Inato, and Abraham Gutman, founder and CEO of AG Mednet. And while they were coming at it from different angles, they were pointing at the same gap. Gutman's framing was direct. The clinical trial industry has spent 2 decades getting good at capturing data, but never built the execution architecture to act on it. AI tools are being deployed and developed, but without the infrastructure to connect them to the right decision at the right moment, they're operating in isolation. The capability exists, but the road system does not. That problem shows up clearly at the site level. Most sponsor AI investment is still being built around the sponsor's workflow and not the sites. Sites don't work with one sponsor, they work with many. When every sponsor builds tech specific to their own trial, sites end up managing a stack of disconnected tools that adds burden instead of reducing it. That's one reason non-enrolling sites remain such a persistent cost driver. Where things are starting to shift is when the infrastructure is built for the site first. Real-time patient data that helps a site evaluate whether they have the right patients for a given protocol before the trial even starts changes the selection process entirely. And when that tool works across sponsors and integrates into the site's existing workflow, adoption actually follows. The takeaway from all of this is straightforward. AI built around the sponsor's needs alone isn't enough. The execution architecture has to serve the people running the trials. I have an exclusive clip from my conversation with Liz Beatty following Scope X, where she gets into what this looks like in practice and where she sees the sponsor-site relationship heading. Here's what she had to say.
Well, I just had a great conversation with a leader from Sanofi this week at ScopeX, pretty much on this topic. What we hear across the board, and it came up many times at the conference, is sponsors are all in on AI. Many of them are making investments in their own organization, and they see the potential for them to improve operations and execution like they haven't had before in the past. However, they need to do this with their partners. So this is a clear message that I took from the meeting and from my session with Sanofi is the sites are a clear part of this transformation that's happening in clinical research. And we have to bring sites into the discussion as well on the use of AI. So what we spoke about was specifically AI sites that are using technology to really understand their data at their center better and allowing them to become more data driven. Historically, the sponsors have spent a lot of time becoming data driven, and now it's really an opportunity for sites to make similar investments because this helps them really understand their own patient data and where they can position themselves best to be effective and efficient in clinical research. So we're seeing this change with sponsors, both at the individual trial level, but also across assets. And we got to speak to this holistically with Sanofi at the conference. Uh, Individual sites have historically been able to position themselves for trials mostly based on their past performance information. So how many studies have you done? How experienced are you? But now these sites can really hone in on, do I have the right patients for this trial opportunity? And can I use AI to efficiently answer that question at my center? So we're seeing this for individual sites in this context of selection, but also more holistically with our sponsor partners across their trial planning. So cross asset planning, where you have multiple drugs in development in similar disease areas, this becomes really invaluable data at the site level to understand where can sites partner with you, not just on one trial, but on many trials across your portfolio. And this helps to provide efficiencies in the work that they do together, but also more certainty that they have the right strategy up front as they go forward with the sites for those particular partners and programs.
A few things worth pulling out there. Liz's point about cross-asset planning is one that doesn't get enough attention. The conversation around AI in trials tends to focus on individual studies. But when sponsors start planning across a portfolio with the same sites, the data sharing dynamic changes. Her number, sites being 3 times more likely to share patient data in a broader program context, reflects something that's more about relationship structure than technology. The other thing that stood out to me is the framing around who the tool is built for. It's not a complicated idea, but it cuts against how most sponsored technology gets developed. If the infrastructure serves the site across all their work, not just one sponsor's trial, the incentive to actually use it is real. That's the design principle the industry hasn't fully committed to just yet. For more from this interview with Liz Beatty, make sure to visit us online at appliedclinicaltrialsonline.com. And that's all I've got for this pilot episode of Trial and Edit. The conversation around AI in clinical trials is moving fast, but the operational questions, like who builds the tools, who they're built for, and how they connect to existing workflows, are still being worked out, and we will keep on covering it. If you found this useful, subscribe and leave a comment. I'm Andy Studna, Senior Editor of Applied Clinical Trials. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time.